I want to welcome Your Excellency
Thank you.
to St. Lucia. As you know, St. Lucia and England have shared historic ties. So I want to welcome you to St. Lucia.
Thank you.
I want to tell you we have an excellent relationship with your team in St. Lucia. They've done a very good job. I want to thank you also for, I'm sure your High Commissioner here must have told you, we were very concerned about our status as far as travel is concerned. And we are doing, the COVID pandemic is affecting the entire world. And in St. Lucia, we are doing our best to mitigate the effects of COVID. I can assure you that the safety of our citizens and the safety of our visitors are key to our survival, because St. Lucia depends very heavily. In fact, over 50% of our GDP is based on tourism, and we will try our best to secure our citizens and our visitors. So I want to tell you that the government of St. Lucia will do whatever we have to do to ensure that we mitigate the effects of COVID, and St. Lucia becomes a country where, albeit different, but you can enjoy our country. We also have very serious initiatives to discuss with you. As you know, and I'm sure the Minister for Infrastructure will enlighten you on the work we're doing on our roads. And again, the west coast of our country, that's where we have the pitons and all the pitons is a World Heritage Site. And then we needed to improve that network. That initiative was taken before I was in government, but as I've always said, when even an initiative is started, once it's a good initiative, we shall continue. So we want to continue that work for the employment that it will create and for the infrastructure improvement. So we thank you for, I think that initiative was started by Prime Minister Cameron.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And it's been followed. It took some time, but it started, as most things we think. We also understand the vagaries of the weather and climate change. It's very important to us. Our region can be wiped out, literally wiped out in a few hours with a hurricane. We can be here today, and tomorrow our country is completely wiped out, and I mean completely. So climate change is very important to us. We look forward to the interventions in Glasgow. My Minister of Sustainable Development is going to be there. I have not yet decided whether I'll travel, but I'm thinking based on what I've heard and the importance of that trip, I think I may have to be in Glasgow 26. So we look forward to the interventions. We look forward because our islands suffer the most, but we emit the least, which is unfortunate. But this is the reality of life, and we hope that we can make some serious interventions at the seminar, so the whole world can benefit. This climate change also affects everybody. We hear about the strange weather, like in New York, a hurricane affected the world. In England, you've had your share of floods. So climate change affects everyone. So the government of St. Lucia will try its best to make our contribution to that important one. We also have concerns about our debt. Our debt levels are rising, and it's been aggravated by the pandemic. We know that because of our status, we cannot get loans at an affordable rate, because it's said that we are not actually a poor country, but we are. But we hope that there can be some, our partners can help us to graduate so that we can get loans at a better rate, and because it's necessary. Our employment situation is worrisome, particularly among the youth. This is why our government has initiated a youth economy, where we hope to get young people involved in sustainable employment in areas that they enjoy. And we've coined it a youth economy. So I'm sure we'll have some discussions with you on that matter. Generally, we know you've helped us in crime detection. Again, a vexing problem, but we can solve it is by cooperation. So we look forward to our discussions. We look forward to continued cooperation between the country and ours as we look to have a world that the effects of the pandemic will be lessened. We look forward to that day. We know I've been speaking to the High Commissioner about vaccines, that you have available some vaccines for us. We're thinking of how we can use them, but there's still a lot of vaccine hesitancy in our country. But we are trying to persuade people for education that they should be vaccinated, because we believe that vaccinations are the only way now, at least, to stem the flu. So we look forward to our discussions. Welcome to Lucia, and we hope to have very fruitful discussions. I thank you.
I'm here really in my role as the adaptation champion for the COP26 presidency. It's a great title. What it really meant was as we took on the presidency, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson was very clear that he wanted to make sure that this COP, the COP that we are hosting, rebalanced across the piece all the issues from the Paris Agreement, not only the challenges of mitigation and making sure that countries who are major emitters work very hard to reduce those, which is obviously critical, but the other issues, both in terms of finance, as you mentioned, and how finance is allocated and is accessible, and the challenges of adaptation and resilient investment are made so that we look across the whole piece, because it should be looked at holistically, because as you say, for St. Lucia and for other regional countries, the issue is not the mitigation challenge, but the ability to be resilient to those weather impacts, which are coming. Even if we manage to solve mitigation tomorrow, we've had those impacts already, and they're coming for years to come. So the ability to become more resilient is critical. So that's very much my focus, and it's been, I've had a fascinating visit across the region for the last week, visiting both projects where the UK has been working in country to help develop resilient agriculture, resilient investment, and so on, to understand how that's working in practice, and where you as nations with very, as you say, very urgent challenges are thinking about them, and indeed hearing from all of you where the problems lie, and hopefully I can take those back and really try and drive that through. I think the one I hear most loudly is the access to finance in order to make those investments, in order to reduce the risks, which is, in a circular sense, clearly the right solution that we want to try and achieve. So that's a very important focus. I think of this COP coming up as if the Paris Agreement was signed on the basis of why we're doing it, this is all about how we deliver now. So those tools that need to be put in place, if they're not there already, or to work better if they don't, so that countries like St. Lucia are able to present the case for the sort of, for instance, we were just discussing with your Minister of Education, schools that are resilient to hurricanes, so that you are able to get children back to school after the weather shock has been. So looking across the piece, that's important. I'm really excited we were able to visit the road project yesterday and to get a real sense of how important it's going to be, and how much opportunity it will give, not only to have a resilient road, but the opportunity for economic growth to move to other parts of the island that aren't there now. So I think at so many levels, making sure that access to finance works better, because not only does it obviously provide resilient investment, but the opportunity, exactly like your road, to prove that it helps you as a country to be able to grow your economy more widely. I think on the challenges of COVID, I absolutely hear you, and it's great to see the work that you're doing to try and reduce vaccine hesitancy. It's a challenge in a number of countries, and trying to get to grips with the reasons why, and they're different in every country, but get to grips with that is one. I was talking to someone yesterday about it, and challenging me on how we'd achieved it, and it was a very interesting challenge. And actually, we did it by our GPs and our doctors and nurses in our communities being the advocates, in fact. So it was where those relationships with our most vulnerable were strongest, where the trust was strongest. It was our doctors and nurses persuading, the most vulnerable to have the vaccine, and to come, get beyond that anxiety because it was new, that there was, the worry of whether it was okay. But I think that continues to be a challenge that we all want to encourage you to resolve, because of course that's one of the reasons, as you say, to our UK St Lucian relationship and our, the tourist trade, which we want to see back up and running as strong as possible for you. One of the criteria for our system, our foreign travel system for UK citizens, is obviously the level of vaccination in country, which then demonstrates that reduced risk. So that continues to be, I know, something that the High Commissioner will be, happy to work with you with, to make sure that those messages, as you make progress, are fed back into the UK system. But really, it's such a pleasure to be here and to have a chance to really hear from all of you about what's important and what you want to see from COP26, the sort of practical outcomes, the roadmap that helps St Lucia to make progress in some of the challenges that the climate shocks that, as I say, we know are coming and are tougher than ever before. How that roadmap from COP26 can be as useful as possible to your administration as you tackle, I know what it's like, I'm the UK Energy Minister in the UK, tackle the day-to-day challenges of making those transformative investments.